Thanks for tuning in today. I'm Wendy, the host of The Widow's Gift, and I'm glad you're here. It's we've had a monumental week. Our oldest daughter graduated from college this week, and you know, as a widow, every day is hard without your spouse, but those monumental times are extra hard because they're extra special, and he should have been there. And but I do know that he's proud. Sometimes I like to think, I told another widow yesterday, I like to think or imagine that God lets our people peek down sometimes on certain days like that. So anyway, proud of my girl. Leadership and ministry is her focus, and I would say that's true. So I want to share with you, it's been a little while since I picked up another book. This one is a book called Be the Miracle, and it's by Regina Brett. 50 Lessons for Making the Impossible Possible. And I have not read through the entire book yet. I'm going to try and get through without totally crying. The letter that I kept inside this book. It was from my Aunt Judy. And my Aunt Judy and I, we have a lot of similarities in our lives. And mannerisms, a lot in a person's life are, remember growing up, I don't know how old you are, but when I was growing up, we heard a lot about, is it nature or nurture? And the reality is, it's not an or, it's an and. We are who we are, partly, in large part, from nature, and in large part from nurture. So that is a both and question. Now, that being said, there were some physical characteristics of my Aunt Judy and I. And her youngest daughter, Christy, and I, so my cousin, we went to the same university, Anderson University in Indiana. And it's a mannerism I wasn't even aware of. And that is, but Christy noticed it. So one day as I was walking across campus at AU, she must have noticed me from afar. The next time she saw me, she said, "Oh my gosh, Wendy, just like Mom, you only swing one arm." And I was like, "Oh, I never noticed." But anyway, many, many similarities with my Aunt Judy and I. And she was sick. She got sick. I can't really remember. I remember being at my cousin's house. It was May, I think of 2019. Could have been 2018. I don't know. Time is a little blurry on those years. Anyway, she got sick, and she fought that cancer. But while she was fighting it, so to speak, our last time together was at a gathering. She came to my house, and some other people, some of my other aunts did too, and my cousin Tracy, and we went. The purpose was to go to Reset 2020, which was being held at the Oasis Church in Middletown. I've talked about this before, but I'm talking about it in a different light this time. So Aunt Judy came, and it was to conquer her fear. Sometimes in our lives, we develop little fears that can grow throughout our life if we don't get them in check. Well, anyway, she did not love to drive, and she went ahead and drove herself to my Aunt Marilyn's house, and then they drove to Ohio. Well, the really cool thing about all of this is we all went to that convocation, Reset 2020. So many things were going on in our world at that time, October of 2020. And that would have been the last time she saw Bob. It was the last time she saw him. And it was awesome, you know? And as it turned out, you know, my aunts couldn't come and see Bob. They couldn't come to the Bob's funeral. And that was okay. Now, many people didn't have funerals during that time, or memorial services, celebration of life, whatever you want to call it, because it's really all of that. Was I celebrating Bob's life? Yes. Was I in deep grief? Yes. So it's not an either or again, it's a both and. But anyway, Aunt Judy came, and that would have been the last time she saw Bob. And then I saw Aunt Judy probably about a year later. Sophie and I made a trip to Bloomington and to celebrate my Aunt Marilyn's 69th birthday. And anyway, that would be the last time I saw Aunt Judy. And she passed away on Bob's birthday. 22, I think. And dates are important to God. They're important to us too, right? At any given time, any given day, somebody's being born, somebody's getting married, somebody's getting divorced, somebody's dying. Every single day. That's happening in someone's world. It's somebody's greatest joy moment and somebody's greatest sorrow moment. So I think it's interesting because I'll talk another time about why I think it's so interesting and profound regarding the behind the story with my Aunt Judy, her life, and Bob's life, and the significance of June 7th. And consequently, a year later, I think it was 23, Ann Wilson came out with a song, and her story, her testimony is wonderful to read. And anyway, the song was the 7th of June. And that's the day her brother went to be with Jesus. So I just was like, wow. I appreciate that song especially. And then this June 7th, Aunt Judy's granddaughter, her only granddaughter, is getting married. So I love that Cameron chose that date. Love it. So anyway, back to this book. Hello, everyone. A couple of weeks ago, I was looking for a book I have by Ruth Bell Graham, but I couldn't find it, and instead ran across a book by Regina Brett called Be the Miracle. For whatever reason, I started reading lesson number 36. The world needs your yes. She begins by talking about a paperweight that she saw in a gift shop in Ann Arbor, Michigan, that said, "What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?" You're going to think this is crazy, but my first thought was to change the homeless situation in our city or country. This situation weighs heavy on my heart. These people need help with drug addiction, mental health issues, jobs, affordable housing. And then the thought occurred to me that Jesus could or can change everything for and about them. He can transform lives. He can transform their lives. And we as Christians have to be part of that change. I can't imagine Jesus walking or driving by each day and never doing anything. And yet I do that very thing. I feel the Lord is going to use me in this area in some way to make a difference. What was the first thing that came to mind when you read, "What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?" Be sure and read lesson 36 for yourself and all the lessons. If the Lord calls us to act on something we read and we are obedient, it could be life-changing for others as well as ourselves. From lesson 36, I started reading other lessons, and I remembered how good this book is. I began to think if I and others started to put these things into practice, how we could change ourselves, our families, our neighborhood, and community. We are always waiting for others to speak out, step forward. Maybe it's us that the Lord wants to use to make changes. I know most of us have done a lot of good things throughout our lives, but there's always more to do and more people to win for the Lord. I knew the Lord wanted me to give this book to others, and so I began to make a list of 24 people. You aren't just a random name. The Lord has a reason. I hope this book inspires you, as it has me, and that together we can make changes for the greater good and bring glory to the Lord as well. Love and blessings, Judy. Well, I just knew I'd cry, but I did better than I did when I rediscovered this book a few months ago and then reread Aunt Judy's letter. See, there's something about a person that you know and love putting things in writing. And when you know somebody intimately, you know their heart, you know their voice, you know how to receive the word. And I just can't help but think, well, goodness, she'd be really excited to know that I did indeed write a book. It's in the process. I thought I was completed. I did my read through, and there's one more portion I need to include. And some of that is in the works. So anyway, I wish you were here to share that with. Goodness. See, grief hits you. And it's a good thing, because grief, tears, they really show our love. Deep grief, it's said that deep grief is from deep love. So anyway, do we have time? I'm going to go ahead and read this, and then I'll close this out. I'm being haunted by a paperweight. Not just any paperweight. This one spoke to me in the checkout line at a gift shop in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I wasn't sure if the paperweight was for sale or merely placed there as a message for shoppers, like a thought of the day brought to you by the store management. The engraved rectangular slab of pewter taunted, "What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?" I tried to ignore it, but the small silver block parked near the checkout whispered to me, "What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?" Okay, so the words were actually engraved on it. But I swear they spoke to me. I looked away. The paperweight tugged at my arm. I turned my back. It shouted at me. I picked up the paperweight and held it in my hand for its answer as if it were like a magic 8-ball, and heard nothing. When I looked at the price, I put it back. It cost $29. Too much to spend on myself. And if I bought it for someone else, I'd be too tempted to keep it. I didn't buy it, but it followed me home, like a song that sticks in your brain and won't let you go. Won't let go. What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? What would I do? Write a book? A play? Some short stories from the pile of ideas I've brainstormed and filed away? I'd sing in a musical or join a choir and not worry about singing off key. I'd go to country line dancing in a pair of screaming red cowboy boots, if I could trust my feet not to be bruised or not to bruise the next person next to me. I'd take piano lessons and play on a baby grand in front of a big audience. I'd sign up for a drawing class or learn to paint. Every year I buy watercolors and pads, but I never pick them up. I haven't come up with the one giant thing that's screaming to get out of me, but everyone else I've asked has. When I posed the question to the woman at my beauty salon, it only took seconds for them to answer. The owner said she'd go to medical school. One hairdresser said she'd hit on every single guy. Another one said she'd get married and have kids. Her biggest fear is failing as parenting. A woman getting her hair cut said, I'd start my own business. Another hairdresser offered, I would take up dancing. Go ahead, pose the question. You'll be surprised at the answers you get. Some people brush it off and say they would ask for a raise, buy a lottery ticket, or propose to Jennifer Lopez or Brad Pitt. One man, a successful local radio personality, surprised me with his answer. I'd be a concert pianist, he told me. There was something magical about that paperweight. So I called the shop to see if they still had it. Turns out they've gone through many of them. Everyone has the same reaction. The assistant store manager said everyone stops to read the paperweight and leaves talking about the dormant dreams they plan to awaken. I asked a group of friends what they would do. Gathered around a dining room table one December, we wrote down our answers and tucked them in envelopes to open next year. We all planned to take one giant step, or maybe baby steps, towards our dreams. One wanted to go on a mission to Africa and fall in like. She wasn't ready to fall in love, but was inching toward it. Another wanted to ask for a promotion and check out the Peace Corps. One wanted a new job and started looking. Nearly every year since, we gather every December as one year comes to a close and another year teeters on the cliff ready to fall open, and we ponder that question or some variation of it. What would we do if we weren't so afraid? We open the sealed envelopes and find how life surprised us. The first year, the letters were more like year-long to-do lists for self-improvement. That included learning another language, traveling another country, write a novel, play, or poetry. We listed small steps and major dreams. One woman wanted to get her doctorate. Others wanted new jobs, new boyfriends, new adventures. The next year, we went deeper. Women wrote they wanted to have a child, fall in love, get healthy, grow closer to God, feel less stressed, love more freely. Putting our hopes and wishes in writing helps them come true. We've made it an annual tradition. It's easy. Gather a few friends or family, pass out some blank note cards or paper, close your eyes and dream big, then write it down. It's better than making New Year's resolutions. We go around and share what we wrote, or pass if it's too private. We try to start with an end in sight and ask ourselves, a year from now, when I open this letter, who do I want to be? Not in terms of income, status, or pounds on a scale, but in terms of what really matters. You put your name and the date on the front, then pack it up with the ornaments. Clip it to December's page of the new calendar, or tape it somewhere you'll hear it whisper to you. I put mine in a ceramic fairy container my friend Vicky gave me. It sits in the room where I meditate. I say a prayer over the cards and my girlfriends. It's always a surprise to find what I wrote a year later. Here's how I fared one year. Love unconditionally. Okay, so I loved most of it. Forgive everyone, everything. Most people. Surrender every day to God's will. Most days. Let go of fears. Most of them. Measure my success at the end of each day by answering this. Did you love today? Made progress. Hike every week. Nope. But my friend Manna said, if you haven't done it in a year, maybe you don't really want to. Good point. Love my mom more. Check. Let go of work defining me. Check. Let go of guilt motivating me. Check. Let go of judging others. Oops. After reading that long list, I wrote one simple word on the card for next year: believe. I believe I can really feel it working. I can feel myself say yes to life. If you want to walk around the world like a human exclamation point, start saying yes to life. Too often it takes a tragedy or a test result or a eulogy to jumpstart us into living. You don't have to wait for New Year's Eve to get a clean slate. You don't have to wait for the pathology report to come back positive before you embrace life to the fullest. Too often we try to improve our lives by saying no, by giving something up for months at a time or forever. We promise to quit smoking, swearing, drinking, overeating, but why not practice saying yes? What would it mean to say yes? It would mean that you welcome every day with open arms. At the end of every day, stand under the stars or open a window and drink in the night, or hover over your sleeping child or spouse and simply rest in the stillness around you. As you soak up the quiet, listen to what God is asking of you and then say yes. To leaving someone who hurts you, to staying with someone who loves you, to forgiving the person who hurt you most, to accepting yourself as is, to creating the gift you are most afraid to create, to being happy with the way things are, to hoping the best is yet to come, to taking life seriously, to all the wonder and mystery and uncertainty and joy this world has to offer. There you have it. You now know a little bit more about me and my Aunt Judy, and think to yourself, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? That's my gift for you today.